It's the show that isn't a show, and we're doing this on a Tuesday instead of a Monday because, you know, my life. Welcome back, guys. Oh, I was starting to get worried that I was going to be extremely late again tonight, too, but we figured it out, so, yeah, I swear. It just gets more and more difficult sometimes, but um, we're slowly figuring it out, and I keep telling myself that at some point things will get back to some semblance of normalcy, but until then we'll figure it out as we go along because um, that's I guess what you do. I don't know anything else to do. So phone lines are up if you want to call in and take part in the show. Otherwise, you can always hang out and chat um, live on Facebook, and I get your messages right there. Marco is drinking the Ananasa Cream Ale with strawberry salsa from Fibonacci. I have not had the salsa version. I do have one more bottle of just the regular Ananasa. I guess that's how you pronounce it, from Fibonacci in my fridge, but that is not what I'm drinking tonight. I grabbed Photo Booth from Urban Artifact. I did already drink one of these this year, and it is drinking really good this year. This is part of their seasonal lineup of Goza beers. So Key Punch and Pickle and all of those. This one is a grapefruit Goza. Let's see if it tells us anything else on here. One thing I love about the artwork for Urban Artifact is at the top of the can, and I think Mad Tree does this now too. They always put 3 words to kind of explain the beer's kind of profile. I think the first one is supposed to represent how sour it is, sour or tart or something like that. The second one I think is the flavor, and then the third one is like the strength of the flavors or something. I don't know exactly. It's probably on an episode of Cincy Brewcast somewhere where we talked about it, but this one is sour, tangy, and bold. It is 4.3%, 3.4 pH, and it says this Goza is brewed with 150 pounds of grapefruit zest in each 30-barrel batch. Early photo booths produced low-quality tin-type images that sparked imaginations and started a custom souvenir industry on hastily developed strips. Just picture yourself with a photo booth. Drink fresh. Cellaring not recommended. So, that's what I'm drinking. I love the Gozas that Urban Artifact is doing. I don't know how traditional as far as Gozas go they are. I don't know if anybody really knows what a Goza is supposed to taste like, but they're delicious. So, oh yeah. Especially, it's not my first beer of the day. I had one with dinner, but definitely after not having one for like a couple hours, it pops, man. That grapefruit is on point. I was actually talking to somebody about this the other day, and somebody said that this beer tasted like what they wanted grapefruit juice to taste like. I think that was a really good description, because grapefruit juice really is not that great as far as juices go, but grapefruit as a flavor is amazing. Not that this is a flavor, this is actual grapefruit, but it tastes like you want grapefruit juice to taste like, if that makes any sense. Julia is drinking a Urban Artifact pickle. You want to know? I have to confess that I have not bought any pickle this year. I kept anticipating that I would see it at the Jungle when I was there, and I haven't seen it yet. I drank one whenever that was last weekend. That was this last weekend, I guess. I did a little tiny bonfire camping trip, and there was some pickle in a cooler, and I drank that. So that was actually a really fun trip. I guess I can kind of talk about what it was. We, some good friends, the Ohio Valley Hops, uh, Dave and Nina Volkman, they did a kind of a bonfire camp out thing for some friends and invited me. And I have some from last year if you want. Actually, I have one can from, I think it's 2 years ago. That's still chilling in the fridge in here just to kind of see what happens with it. But I don't anticipate that it's going to improve over time. So, but yeah, so did this little makeshift camping trip, and there were a few people from some other breweries around town, and whenever that happens, you get a whole bunch of really great beers to drink. So Pickle was one of those, and I did drink some. So I did get some this year in some capacity. I'm still holding out hope that a six-pack will pop up somewhere that I'll be able to snag, although I'm not sure with how fast they sold out on their end if it'll be easy to find around town. I don't know. I hope so, because it would be heartbreaking otherwise. I also drank some of the barrel-aged pickle. Yeah, the spicy pickle, I saw that on the shelf. I am not a huge fan of the spicy pickle. I'll drink it, and I don't it's not, overly offensive or anything, but it doesn't satisfy that same urge that the regular pickle does for me. So I'm not too concerned to run out there and try to find it, but it is such a good beer, and they'll make more of it next year. So I think they keep surprising themselves with how many people love this beer, even though it should be obvious. I'm lactose intolerant, so I can't drink it. Bought it last year for a friend, and they moved away. The regular pickle has lactose in it? I didn't know that. Delhi Liquor still had several six-packs over the weekend. I know it's the opposite of the university, though. There's a chance. Well, I won't go into. Yeah, that might be doable. Yeah, like I said, I'm sure that at some point, I will be in some kind of a store and it'll be on a shelf in the next week or so, and I'll be able to snag some. But if not, it's not the end of the world either. It's not, one of those beers that I have to have. It just goes so good with a burger and the sunshine, and it's just such a neat beer. Started out kind of as a joke and took on a life of its own, and here we are. It is, I can't remember what the percentage Brett said it was of their production. I want to say close to like 10% of their entire production now is pickle, which is just mind-blowing to me. It doesn't make any sense. Who knows? It's crazy. People are nuts, and they go nuts over that beer. I guess we should, before we get too far down a pickle rabbit hole, we should just go ahead and talk about it. Braxton. So part of the reason that I was not heartbroken that I couldn't do. Oh yeah, that's true. I'm not thinking lactobacillus. I'm sorry. I'm thinking lactic. No, I'm thinking lactose. I don't know if that is related at all. I don't know anything. You would know much better than me. So Braxton, what I was saying was the part of the reason that I was not heartbroken that I wasn't able to get this show to happen yesterday is that I knew that midnight that press release was probably going to be hitting my inbox, and I was probably going to be writing about the 3 Points news, and figured we could at least talk about that tonight, whereas we wouldn't have been able to last night. Crazy stuff. I mean, I think Braxton has kind of proven that they aren't afraid to put their money where their mouth is, I guess. Even in a time. What about us? Sorry. Um, it was heartbreaking to not be able to sit down and talk to you guys, but I knew that tonight would make up for it. Let's put it that way. Um, Braxton is not afraid to make some risky. I don't even know if this is a risky move, but to try to do things a little differently than what people say they should. 3 Points is a 10-barrel system. So, and I'm not an expert on liquor laws by any stretch of the imagination, but it gets confusing when you are trying to have a brewery that exists in Kentucky and a tap room that exists in Ohio also, because sending beer back and forth is not the same as if you have two tap rooms in Ohio. So they are definitely going to be brewing in Ohio. I assume, and I could be wrong on this, that everything that they're selling in that 3 Points tap room will be brewed at 3 Points in the tap room. Just because to sell a beer in Ohio that is brewed in Kentucky, it has to go through the distributor, which doesn't make sense monetarily speaking. Again, as far as I know. Not if you make all the Ohio beer in Ohio. That's what I'm saying. Like, if anything you make there in that 3 Points tap room, you can sell in that tap room, and that's easy enough. But as soon as they want to go between the two tap rooms with beer, it's a little more confusing. So, like right now, if they make a beer in Covington and want to put it on tap in Labs, I don't think that's a hard process to do. I think you can just send the beer. Same goes for other places that have two locations, like Wooden Cask. As far as I know, you can just send the beer. Yeah, there's lots of lactose discussion. We won't. I'll let you guys just do that. I think that this is a really, really, really smart move for Braxton. I know that there's going to always be plenty of backlash whenever somebody makes any kind of big move like this, but it is, a lot of people were talking online about how they thought it was strange to open up 3 tap rooms that are within, 3 miles of each other. But I think that big X factor in all of this is that river and getting a tap room on this side of the river. Personally, and this is probably a little bit of bias too, I kept holding out hope that that win, and in my head I think it was always a win, not an if. When Braxton decided to open a Ohio tap room, that it would be a little further north, maybe kind of up here where I live. But I'll take it one way or another. I think it's a great, like you just mentioned, Julia, it's going to be a perfect fit for them in that, not just that location, just the space in general. They, very garage-like and an open space, which is something that they haven't had a lot of with their current tap rooms. I mean, I guess Barrel House is pretty open, but it's also very small. So I think it's going to be a really good fit for them, and I'm excited to see them kind of move into it and put their own spin on it. They said that it is going to kind of take aspects of each of their current 3 locations and wrap them up into kind of one package. So each of the current 3 locations have very distinct personalities, and this tap room is going to be a mixture of all of those personalities, I guess. I'm excited to see what exactly that means and what it looks like. And I loved 3 Points, and I think that they were onto something with that idea. They just never kind of got it all to connect, and I hope they sponsor Danger Wheels if that happens next year. I don't know for sure if it will happen next year. I am fairly confident that if it does happen, Braxton will definitely throw their name into the hat as far as helping to sponsor that. And that's just my opinion. Obviously, I don't know anything, but I I don't. In this world that we live in right now, I think when people are out drinking, not that it's hard to get from OTR to Covington, because obviously it's not, but if you're in OTR, it's a whole lot easier to make that decision to go to Braxton if Braxton is right down the street versus across the bridge and a few blocks south. So I think it's going to be very good for them as far as people getting out and trying their beer, because believe it or not, there are still plenty of people who have just never been to Braxton. That's what's it's always so crazy to me when I live in this strange bubble where I've been to every brewery and I spend a lot of time in breweries and I try to rotate what brewery I'm going to, that there are still people that do not do that and have not been to nearly everybody. It's kind of crazy to me, but it's going to be good for them. I firmly believe that. I like the beer. Again, I know that some people have their own opinions about stuff, and opinions are always valid if you feel it, but they've got some really great beer, and they're going to be a good fit for that area. That's for sure. Especially since, we just had Moreline close down the Malt House tap room, which was a huge loss for that area as far as breweries go. And then the rumor that 3 Points was closing has been floating around. And I think that there was, in the back of a few minds, including mine, that chance that they weren't going to be able to find somebody to take over the space. I don't know, monetarily speaking, what kind of deal it was involved there to take over the space, but it couldn't have been cheap. So I'm glad that they were able to figure that side of it out. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn with that. I know that, let's put it this way, Three Points or Hickory Wall, the group that operates on, reached out to a few other places. So Golden Road next. I was talking to a few people about who would move into that space, or if somebody could move into that space. There was a lot of people saying that they were expecting another out-of-town kind of place to come in there. We've got Brewdog, obviously, right around the corner there. You have other places, looking at the area. Nobody really knew that they closed. So that's, Justin said he had no idea 3 Points closed. They never made a big formal announcement that they were closed. It was just, they kind of just ignored it. On March 15th, along with everybody else, they temporarily closed their tap room. And then everybody else started doing some kind of carry out and things like that. They didn't. And then as tap rooms were able to open back up and people started opening back up, they just never did. And the industry rumors started floating around as they started talking to other places, trying to get them to take over the space, that they were closed. But there was, like I said, never any kind of formal announcement. Very similar to, I say this very very carefully, similar to what is happening at Woodburn right now, who is not officially closed, despite what anybody is saying. However, the industry rumors are saying that they are closed. However, there's never been a formal announcement of that, and they, are still there and not closed officially. So it's very similar to that, where it was kind of just without any fanfare and just it fizzled out. And I don't know if that's I'm gonna get shit for this, but I don't know if that's because they were the Hickory Wald was the operating partner of the brewery, and they are you talking about the Woodburn tap room? Because no, it is not open. It's still temporarily closed, with nothing else being said about it on social media for a month now or something. I don't know if it was because you have a restaurant group that was running the brewery, if it was really easy for them to just shift gears and not do anything to kind of let people suffer that loss a little bit and let it kind of give it that last little shebang or something. Or if it just is because of the times, because of the craziness that's already, that we're already in the middle of. Things aren't normal. And so, I don't know. I don't like it. When 8 Ball closed, you had like, a month or two to kind of prepare yourself for that. And that felt better. I guess we could kind of, compare it to the Blank Slate, which just closed. But there was at least an announcement right then. It was, the doors didn't open, and then on social media there was at least a statement that said, "Yes, we're closed. We're done, and this is final." This like fizzling out is strange. It's not even like a fizzling out. I don't know. I'm glad that you're finally not coughing. See, now that you say that, it's going to get in my head and I'm going to cough. I do still cough from time to time. Actually, I already think I coughed once during this non-show. I want to hear what people think about this Braxton thing, because I haven't had a lot of time to process it with people because it's such new news. And like I said, I literally wrote the post last night at midnight after a hell of a night with the toddler. So then I was delirious, and then then I had to get up at early morning to go to work today, and I've just been in my bubble all day. I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody. I didn't even get a chance to text anybody about it and be like, "Hey, what do you think?" I love the chance of spreading out any kind of Cincinnati beer to a bigger audience. Now here we go. Phone, is this Marco? Let's see. Hey, this is the gnome. Who am I talking to?
What's going on? First time listener, long time caller, buddy.
How are you?
How you doing, man? I'm good. Hey, I'm back. I'm sorry. I was on vacation last week.
That's all right. How was the vacation?
It was fantastic. I went to Fibonacci. I did not vacation at Fibonacci. I was over there.
You can though. If anybody wants to vacation at Fibonacci, you can get a Airbnb and vacation at Fibonacci.
So, on that topic, the whole time I was at Fibonacci, I was trying to find the information to Airbnb at Fibonacci, and it was extremely complicated. I never found it.
Huh.
Just saying. Don't tell Betty I said that, because she'd get mad at me.
Well, no, that's interesting. She's on right now. Ironically enough.
Betty. Hi. You're Betty's the best. Betty didn't even recognize me. I walked in, and I'd never been there, and she told me the whole spiel, and I ordered a beer, and I posted about how great the beer was on Facebook. But when you're wearing a mask when you walk in there,
it's weird. It is hard. Yeah.
It's weird. There's people that you've met, and then you don't. And honestly, what has it been, a year and a half since I've seen Betty and Bob? So
it's gonna make it very difficult now too. Like, people that you're meeting now, if you just meet somebody randomly out and then you have to try to remember them in a month. You never got to see their face. You have to try to memorize their mask and their eyes.
Right. Or they're like sort of hats that they wear, or stuff like that. I mean,
Right.
I was at BC's Montgomery today. There's a guy that lives 3 houses down from me, and he's a Mug Club member like I am. And I was sitting there and I saw this guy walk in. I'm like, I think that's Nick. I think that's Nick. And finally he got to the bar and he waves at me. I'm like, Nick, is that you? Yeah, it's me. I'm like, okay, well, behind the mask. All right. How's your grass? It's burnt. Yeah, mine is too.
It's
So
dead.
yeah, it's dead. It's dead. It's great. It's fantastic. I haven't had to cut it. It's wonderful. That's the way I prefer it, by the way. I'd rather like a desert landscape. But anyways, so yeah, vacation was great. Went to Fibonacci, which was fantastic. I recommend. I'm drinking right now. Like I said earlier, I went to Hocking Hills. I went to the brewery there, Brewery 33, and it was fine. A lot of outdoor space. Um, they have a winery at Hocking Hills, which I did not get to venture to because they are closed on Tuesdays, and Tuesday was the day I was going to go there.
I hate that so much when you're somewhere and you get on and you find a place like, oh, I got to go here, and then there's one day that they happen to be closed during a week, and it just so happens to be that day that you're there. Hate it.
So my youngest daughter, she for I don't know why, but for whatever reason, she just loves goats, and one of the top things
Well,
to
I mean,
do in
goats
Hocking
are
Hills
awesome.
is go to the goat petting like farm.
Right.
And so, I mean, this place it was like the McDonald's of goat petting farms. It was like in it. I mean, it was a great experience. But when we got back, I was like, hey, Fibonacci has goats. Let's go check out the goats. Not exactly the same experience because, I mean, the goat petting farm is like you buy food and you go and you feed the goats and whatnot. And so I just wanted to see if it was in any way something that would be interactive for my daughter, and it at Fibonacci it's not really, and I get it. That's fine, but she really loved interacting with the goats, and so yeah, vacation was cool. It was fun. I have not made it out to 3 Points yet, even though I've tried several times to go. Every time I've tried to go, they've been closed, and I guess it's because every time I try and go, it's been on a Tuesday. I guess they're closed on Tuesdays. Again, me and Tuesdays. I don't know. But you wanted feedback on Braxton.
On Braxton.
So here's what I want to know: is what do you want from Braxton that you can't already get in Braxton, other than the fact that they weren't a physical space in Ohio?
I think that's pretty much it. Well, and no, it's not. Like you said, spaces are very important when it comes to craft beer. It's not just the beer necessarily.
Thank you.
There are times where I want to go to Labs and I want to sit at Labs and drink a Tropic Flare. Then there are times where I might want to go to the Barrel House and drink a Tropic Flare. And then there's other times where I want to go sit on the rooftop at Covington and drink a Tropic Flare. Because the beer itself may be the same, but that experience in the tap room is going to be different. I liked a lot of things about the 3 Points tap room. There are things that I didn't like that I hope Braxton fixes, but there were things that I really liked about that tap room, and I want somebody to be able to come in and keep that alive. It would have sucked to see a different type of business move in there and we lose that piece of tap roomness in the city, if that makes sense.
Okay, so I've never been to the space. I've heard from people that the space was pretty cool. What the space has is equipment, right? So
Yes.
they have a 10-barrel brew house. How many fermenters do they have? How many bright tanks? Do you know?
I
Do you have
don't know off the
information
top of
on
my
that?
head. I can make a guess, an educated guess off the top of my head, and say they're probably at about 4 10-barrel fermenters right now, as 3 Points was. That being said,
Okay.
that being said, Braxton is obviously not afraid of investing money in things like that, especially right now. As much as we don't want to talk about it, there's probably some used equipment floating around in the world that is not hard to get a hold of. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, nobody's afraid to talk about it. I mean, anybody who's open is not afraid to talk about it. But I mean, so if clearly what they were doing is the production was outpacing their capacity at HQ, right?
yeah,
So
they're maxed out now.
so when you're looking at purchasing maybe equipment, you also are thinking, where are you going to put it?
Mm-hmm.
So this may be a great opportunity for them to expand equipment and just also have a space, and which is great too if you can have patrons come to your space, which, by the way, you got because you needed extra equipment and extra production space anyway.
Right.
So, it's probably in the short term a really great idea, because what you could do is probably get equipment and, oh, by the way, space at a very opportunistic price.
Right.
And what you're able to do is have more production, and, oh, by the way, in another state which you already distribute in. So, it just if they got it for a great deal, it makes a fantastic opportunity, because you could probably do small packaging operations. You could do things in your Ohio space that you would have done in the Kentucky space that maybe you could save a little bit of money on, or
What's
just
interesting about
things.
What's interesting to me
Go ahead.
about the 3 Point space versus their other spaces. Their other spaces, you could have something like the Barrel House with a tiny, I think it's like a 1-barrel brew house in there. It's nothing that is it's not really about the brewing. Yes, they do make stuff there, but it's mostly about the warehouse underneath to store barrels. Labs is a place to crank out experimental stuff, and you don't have to worry about making Tropic Flare or Storm or whatever it is. Whereas all that stuff can keep cranking out at HQ in Covington. This is a whole different kind of ball game. As soon as you move across that river, as far as I know, you can't just find a way to send beer over there. You've got to make it there unless you want to pay a distributor to do it for you.
Yes, exactly.
So you're buying the beer off of yourself, basically.
The way that's the way I understand it. Now that may not be the way, because I certainly I'm not in that situation, but the way I understand it is, yes, you would be buying the beer from yourself.
But with Ohio liquor laws, though, too, you can't set some kind of cheap price that means you're not shaving a bunch of money off to give to somebody else. Once you set a price of something, it has to stay that way for like a month or something like that. So like you can't figure out a way to kind of find a loophole around that either. Like it's
no, but you can brew it there all you want,
right?
But
that's what's interesting. This will be the first additional space for them where they kind of have to brew all of those core beers in addition to whatever else they want to do, their experimental stuff or small batch things. They've got to brew Storm there. They've got to brew Tropic Flare. They've got, like, when you walk into a Braxton space, you're expecting something. You're expecting all of those core beers to be on, and then you're expecting something else.
Yeah.
Where that's easier to do in the same state as your main brewery.
Yeah, but they're already sending kegs to Ohio. So they could send kegs back to Kentucky. I mean, they can just figure out the way that makes most sense for them.
Yeah.
I mean, they're already slinging those kegs back and forth, but to be able to produce sings in Ohio and not have to sling some of those kegs back and forth is certainly a benefit.
It's gonna be
And
interesting to see what they do.
what I think is the small batch stuff, the lab stuff is first of all, I mean, it's going to be the lowest yield if you sling it back and forth because you're only slinging a few kegs back and forth. But on the same hand, it's still your stuff, right? So I mean, you probably wouldn't bother, experimental necessarily, whatever. But if you can do some of the bigger stuff that you don't need to sling back and forth, I mean, core product that doesn't have to go through state lines and distribution, that could certainly be advantageous. But I don't know the space. I have no idea. I mean, maybe there is the opportunity for some of that experimentation or whatever. But they just gained production space, and they just gained the taproom space. So that's great. And if you can do that, if they got it at a fair enough deal, they could have gotten it for less than a brand new investment on equipment. I have no idea. I don't know any of these things, but that could have been a win all the way around.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really fascinating to kind of see what exactly they do with the brewing side of it. The tap room is it makes sense. Brad Plank from Fretboard is on. He says the taxes are crazy to sling that small of production across state lines, and I think that's where my mind is. Like it's not going to make sense to send beer back and forth. It's the only thing that's going to make sense is to brew everything that you're making there. It's just so different than having two tap rooms in the same state, and so it's going to be really kind of crazy to watch and see how they do it and why they do what they do and that kind of thing. And the average person doesn't notice and they don't care because they just walk in and they just grab their beer, and that's they want it to be seamless and to not notice that there is anything different, If you want to see the space, I don't know if I'm sure there's pictures up on thegnarlygnome.com, but I don't know how great they are of the actual space. They're not awesome.
That's cool. I've never seen it. I've never been there.
It's big. It's mostly tap room.
You
mostly
invite
tap
me
room.
out to have beer.
I don't get to go to have beer at all anymore. It is mostly tap room. It's just a big open kind of space. There's the production side of it is kind of tucked into one corner, but any production is production.
So there's room to change that then.
Sure. Well, and what I've learned, especially with a place like Braxton, when you think that they have filled it up with tanks, they always find some kind of way to cram more in there. Now I know that 3 Points is not,
right, or just buy another space.
Right. 3 Points is not as tall of a building as Braxton and Covington is, so you can't fit the size tanks in there that you can. But they will definitely find a way to fit whatever they can in there. But it's good. It's definitely better than losing a tap room in 3 Points and not gaining somebody in there.
So I'm gonna switch topics on you. On my vacation, the only work, and for those who know me, and you know me, I work 7 days a week. I work 5 days a week, my regular job. I work 2 days a week, plus fill in my early days over at the vineyard and whatnot. I work 7 days a week. My vacation was fantastic because I didn't work, except I did a beer-related event, and I went to Third Friday in Lebanon, and I worked Third Friday in Lebanon. We took 2 beers, and It was us, Common Beer Company, and Narrow Path. We all took 2 beers, and we were pouring at a open event where streets were closed. There was a band. There were food trucks. It was out. It was in the open. The tables were set far apart. The food was way at the other end of the venue. The beer. This is, I feel, a preliminary model of how we're trying to do events as we move forward.
Right.
Now, just from what I've told you, how comfortable would you and Mrs. Gnome and the little gnomes be to get out in that sort of environment?
That's hard for me to answer. How comfortable would I be is easy to answer. I'm fine with it. How comfortable my wife is, I think it changes depending on what it looks like when she's actually there. So it's hard for me to answer that. It depends. It depends on a lot of different things.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to bring it back to, the COVID-related things, but it's a beer-related and social-related topic. And if you don't want to talk about it, we don't have to. But,
No, that's fine.
I mean, this was the very first beer-related event that I have worked or attended since, the stay-at-home order.
Right.
So, I mean, we all want to be able to do these events sensibly. We all want to have these events. Is it the right thing to do or not? That's not what I'm asking.
Right.
What I'm asking is the event happened. There were enough people that felt comfortable enough to come out and be at the event. What I can tell you is that it was so blazing hot that probably a lot of people stayed away. And number two, well, there's a global pandemic. So none of us blew any kegs at this event.
Right.
But everybody was very happy that the event was happening.
But does that that kind of honeymoon period of you're just happy to be out somewhere pouring beer, does that start to wear off over time? And the fact that you're not selling as much beer at this event as you might want to or need to start to factor into stuff. My fear with all of this is that it's not people get more comfortable and they start going out more, as much as it is like this up and down yo-yo thing where this week people are really comfortable and they go out and it's the weekend and people go sit on a patio somewhere and have dinner and have a experience that maybe they don't like, or then they listen to the news the next day and get terrified about something. So then the next week they don't go out at all, and people trying to adjust based on numbers of people that are comfortable constantly changing, if that makes sense. I don't think that I just think it's going to keep flip-flopping and yo-yoing around for a while. And it's hard to.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't know. I mean, and I've said, I've texted you. I've said, corresponding on the show. I mean, Valley Vineyard Cellar Dweller is all in on Oktoberfest, which is in September, and this is the first open air beer event that I've worked or attended since the stay-at-home order, and the attendance was light. So, I mean, as we go on in the next couple of months, is the attendance going to be light? Are people going to be more and more comfortable and come out? Are other places going to, plan on doing events just like Third Friday did, or like we're going to do? I mean, I'm just kind of
Greg just commented
out there
on the Facebook stream. He says, speaking of beer events, Oktoberfest watch. He said currently Liberty Home and Maysville have both canceled. Oktoberfest Cincinnati still has no info, which I keep looking, seeing if there is going to be anything that pops up, and there hasn't been. He says, which is weird, which I agree is strange that they haven't canceled it. He says, I don't do the insanely huge one. I agree that even on a good year, it's not always the best Oktoberfest, but Germania and Minster are still on the calendar with countdown timers. Donna Schwaben is not on their calendar. I'm not sure how they're going to happen, but Germans tend to figure things out. The smaller German society ones here in the tri-state are some of my most favorite things in Cincy, and I agree with that 100%. It would be you know, it would be a shame if some places didn't fight to try to figure something out.
Well, I don't think now personally. I mean, in Warren County, we're not under a mandatory mask order. So,
right.
I mean, presently as it stands, if you go to Valley Vineyard, you don't have to wear a mask. Now, whether you should or shouldn't, I mean, that's your personal preference in a place where it's not mandatory. What I would say is, in my opinion, I have no problem if we're going to an open outdoor venue, if you as the venue decide, unless you are seated, you should be wearing a mask. I don't find a problem with that.
Right.
Now, what you should do as a venue, though, is provide proper seating and proper distancing. And if you do that, I don't see a reason why we can't do it just like in a restaurant, just like in a brewery. If you're going to be seated, you're seated far enough distance away from somebody else to where you can sit down, enjoy your beer or your pizza or whatever it may be. And when you leave, it's sanitized. Now, and then when you stand up and go and enjoy or go to the restroom or go to get a beer, you need to have a mask. I don't see any reason why a festival or a venue cannot ask their customers or their guests to do that. And if they ask them to do that, if you're afraid to go in that environment, then you shouldn't go.
Right.
But if you understand that at least you're in an environment where socially that's the best they can do, then why not go ahead and do it and let people decide for themselves?
And this is just coming from me, not necessarily from the venue perspective, but if I think of some of the crowded Oktoberfests that I've been to, I don't want to go to that this year. But if I think of some of the times where I've been, and maybe it's at an off time or it's just a random weird year where maybe the weather's bad or whatever it is, where it wasn't busy, I'm okay with that. But the size of the crowd, I think, is the biggest factor for me and for my comfort level right now. I don't want to be shoulder to shoulder with people. If we were to go to any kind of Oktoberfest this year, we're bringing a big picnic blanket or something, and most of the time we're there, we're going to find some kind of a quiet corner just to spread out and sit in the grass and drink just as our small group that we happen to go with. It's not going to be the same as it was in other years where you're standing shoulder to shoulder in the main.
I think it's one of those. Yeah, I think it's one of those things where you can just go ahead and lock 10% right off the top. Like they're not going to go, right? I mean, it's just, and that's fine. It's okay. We will welcome them back next year or whenever it's appropriate. I mean, I think what's happening is that people are certainly deciding a population is or percentage is deciding that they're not going to partake in these events, and that's fine. But so I think you're already going to be in an environment where there are less people than usual. Right. I don't think this is a thing where the groundswell is going to come up and people are going to just come out because they're, bursting to get out.
It'll definitely be less than usual, but there have been plenty of times where, in the last month or so, I've thought, I'll just run in here and grab dinner really quick, and you walk in, and it surprises you how many people are at a certain place, or how many people are there not worried about distancing from other people, or not wearing masks, or whatever it may be, and it
Well, but
catches you off guard.
yeah, and there's also the factor that, I mean, some of these some of these food trucks uh, may have scaled back to one
Yeah.
instead of two, or may have decided to put business on hold, or, I mean, honestly, Third Friday in Lebanon was usually jam packed full of food trucks, and there were only a few. So, I mean, I don't know if there were other venues going on around town or whatnot, but I think even from a vendor standpoint, you're going to have fewer vendors from that perspective. So, it's going to be interesting, but I think there's a way to where the venue can say we're going to do this as responsibly as we can, but just like the governor said last week, which was kind of like a dad talking to his adult kids, like look, you guys really need to get this together, because if you can't, I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna have to do something about it. I mean, it's kind of like the same thing where the venue says, look, I mean, we're going to do everything we can, but basically this is up to you. I mean, tables are going to be apart. I mean, vendors are going to be apart. Even at Third Friday in Lebanon, like, the health inspector came by and everybody had to tape off like 6-foot markers for people to stand at. I mean,
Right.
you can only do so much. Like, you can't, like, if the guy behind me is going to get up on me, like behind me, waiting for, his mac and cheese or whatnot, I mean, it's up to me to turn around and say, hey, dude, can you back up, bro? I mean, it's not on the festival. So,
It's not,
it's,
but there is a slight bit of responsibility to have enough reminders around that it's in people's face that you should be 6 feet away, that if you're around other people, you should probably wear a mask at this point, even if there isn't a mandate. Like there is some kind of responsibility if you're going to be inviting that many people into your space, right?
yeah. Well, and I hated to turn it into a COVID show, right? But what
No,
I wanted to do
it's
was
the world right now.
find a way that you and I together, since we're in charge of making sure this happens, make sure that Oktoberfest happens, right? I mean, and for everybody that's listening to your show.
Yeah,
we need to make sure Oktoberfest happens.
We need to figure something out, and we need to. How do you do it safely is the biggest question. Just anybody who's deciding to do.
Well, I'm putting it on you. I mean, I'm making
it is my responsibility as the
responsible for figuring that out.
Even if I am just standing in my front yard with a giant liter of beer, just yelling to my neighbors to come outside and drink with me, I will find a way to celebrate Oktoberfest this year. Because it just gets better and better as far as Oktoberfest beers that are available in the city.
You can get one. Well, I mean, you can get Rheingeist starting this week.
Theirs is available this week. Taft's is available this week.
So pumpkin beer is next week then.
No, you got a month or so before pumpkin beer.
God. Oh my God.
But and when I first saw that that they were starting to get ready to come out, my first thought was, oh my God, it's too early. And then number one, I thought about it. I'm like, no, it's never too early for Oktoberfest beers. I'm ready for it. And then I started thinking, I'm like, well, shit, it is like we're almost through July at this point.
Yeah, we're almost
winding down. So
yeah,
like
we're almost at August.
It really is seasonally there. So I'm okay. I'm all about it. I saw that Westside is doing 2 of them this year. They're not just doing their Martzen, they are also doing a fest beer. I like breweries that do multiple Oktoberfest.
I might know a brewery that's taking that same approach. I'm just saying.
Awesome. I'm all about it. Well,
all right, buddy.
There will be.
I think I talked your ear off enough. I'll let you, finish up your show, and I'll hang up and listen.
Yeah, we'll catch up here soon. It's going to be crazy for a little while for my perspective. It always is, isn't it? I'm always figuring it out. I will do my absolute best to make sure that this show always happens, preferably on a Monday night. And Cincy Brewcast always happens on Monday mornings, and Prost always happens on Thursdays. So that's the best I can do to drink with you guys sometimes.
No, we'll take it, buddy. We'll take it when we can get it. So, thanks, and like I said, I'll hang up and listen. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, you too, buddy.
All right, bye.
Bye. So we'll start wrapping it up here because we're approaching an hour. But talking on the Oktoberfest side of things, the annual Oktoberfest beer roundup, the great Oktoberfest beer roundup, is coming soon on the website. Rockin' the Rhine from Fretboard. And they're just such good Oktoberfest beers. Betty is Fibonacci doing an Oktoberfest this year. Do you have a Marzen? I think you guys did one last year, right? Speaking of Prost, do we get to vote on the beer you drink for this next episode? Nope, because I already finished it this morning. It's ready to post. It is West Side's Common Ale this week. And then I think next week will be the first seltzer on Prost. So stay tuned for that. And there is a chance that the week after that is already set too. So we'll figure it out. It would be fun to be able to vote every single week, but the hard part with Prost is that I record them all ahead of time, and then number two, there are places that send me beers that want me to do them on the show, and that kind of throws a whole wrench into the planning. Then there's seasonally appropriate things, like if I record an Oktoberfest beer in 2 weeks, I can't sit on it for 3 months to put it up there. Sorry. No puppies and no voting this episode. I know. Well, this week is very crazy in my life. My poor wife is going in for surgery this week, and I evidently have a toddler that is just determined to not sleep anymore, in addition to the baby, so I do what I can. Sorry, guys. But it will be there. You will get all of these episodes, and they will all happen. And maybe give me a little bit of time to let things kind of settle down, and maybe we'll get to the point where we can do some kind of voting thing where I'll put up like a rolling poll that you can just always click on and vote on, and that'll determine which beers get recorded. How about that? We'll do that, because even if I record them ahead of time, you guys can still tell me what to drink. So all right, we'll wrap this up. Thank you guys for listening. Like I said, Cincy Brewcast on Monday mornings. We had a Third Eye this week, and it was a fun one. Then we have on Monday nights this show, the Weekly Pint live stream. Thursdays around happy hour-ish, so like 5 p.m.-ish, we have Prost, which is on Instagram TV. And that's that. And if you like what you hear and you want to help make it easier, then gnarlygnome.com/support helps immensely. Or if you know a business that you think would be a good fit for the show that would like to sponsor the show, tell them to reach out to me. We do take sponsors. We do, not this show. We don't, although I would put a commercial on there, just a big, I'd do that. But no, Cincy Brewcast, we do take sponsors, and we do commercials on there if somebody wants to support the show. So have them reach out to me, and we can talk about it. Or for any of you who work at a brewery, if you want a beer on Prost, again, reach out to me. Give me some beer, and we'll put it on there. And or you can just sit around and wait for me to drink it, which will probably happen anyway. So thank you guys. It was good to have you, Betty. Keep us posted about Thursday. Will do. Thank you guys very much. We'll be back next week, and get out and grab some beer, because that's what this is all about, is getting out and drinking local and supporting all of these places. So, drink local. And we'll see you guys next week.